Welcome back, and in this episode... So we left you in the last episode leaving our campsite at Mount Cook, and with brilliant blue skies we're able to see the mountain range in all its glory as we travel back along Lake Pukaki. We continue on our journey and starting to move back northwards, but this time we go along the east coast of South Island. Ultimately today we're heading for a campsite southeast of Christchurch in an area called the Banks Peninsula. But as ever, we'll have several stops along the way. Now, the forecast of bad weather yesterday didn't really materialise, but unfortunately it's forecast to do so in the next 24 hours, so we simply enjoy the weather in front of us. We try to stop for brunch at a place called the Greedy Cow Cafe at Takapako, which sits at one end of the lake. But unfortunately there is an hour's waiting time for a table, so it has to be a great place, and it's a shame as the menu looked right up our street. So we take the opportunity to take some pictures just down the road at the Church of the Good Shepard that overlooks the lake. Built in 1935, the church is a small Anglican church used by various denominations. It was built as a memorial church to commemorate early settlers, and it's one of the most photographed items in the country. And in 2018 the local vicar estimated that there'd been 600,000 visitors come to see the church. And we're adding to those statistics. A man called Rodman, who was one of the two builders of the church, got his money's worth as he was the first person to ever get married in the church. We then continue to take a short 40-kilometre journey to the town of Fairley, where we managed to get a late breakfast. Stu really liked this sculpture of a shepherd called James Mackenzie, who in 1855 was caught inland with 1,000 sheep. He protested his innocence, but unfortunately was jailed. He then managed to escape twice before being pardoned. His exploits and those of his dog won him widespread public sympathy, and he became a folk hero. As we continue the long journey to southeast of Christchurch, the weather is really hot, so the aircon is on. And we caught sight of what looked like a fire in the distance. Now unfortunately we never found out what it was as we had to turn off, but hopefully it was nothing of significance and nobody was harmed. Come across this little river scene that looks a great stop for a picnic, and it's an idea that's been taken up by a few people from the looks of it. Now the campsite we're heading for is on the Orton Bradley estate. The site costs around $30 New Zealand dollars, which is about 15 UK pounds, with basic showers and toilets on a powered site. And we're stopping here for 2 nights. Although it's forecast bad weather tomorrow, today is really humid. So whilst I chill out in the van, Roger, Stu and Caroline take a short walk to explore the estate. Now the park area that we're seeing now was first established between 1852 and 1858 as one of the earliest agricultural estates on the Banks Peninsula. A Reverend Reginald Robert Bradley, who had arrived from Kirby, Stephen in England, bought the Moor estate and added further land. So by 1866 he possessed some 1,600 acres. And in 1892, Orton Bradley, his son, came to the estate on the death of his father. Orton had an interest in forestry, and also what would now be called ecology. He planted a wide range of native and exotic trees to try and determine the types of trees that would thrive the weather conditions of the Banks Peninsula. And he did indeed pick well, as many of the trees today remain, including large specimens of eucalyptus lining the entrance of the drive. And they are said to be amongst the largest in New Zealand.
Oh, 56, look. 48 to 56.
Sadly, Bradley died in 1943, and it was then that the whole area was passed on to the benefit of New Zealand, which I have to say is some gesture. However, he did allow 2 cousins to retain a financial interest until their deaths. Now, there are longer walks all around the estate, but the heat today, after a long journey, it's not for us, so sitting around the vans is the order of the day. Well, the following morning, the forecast of wet weather has arrived. We're taking Roger and Caroline's van to Akaroa, but the weather opens up, and as they say in the UK, it's the sort of weather that gets you wet through.
That's me brother. Stupid. It's raining. It's absolutely pouring with rain. We finally got the wet rain they said we were going to get, and it's coming down in sheets. I don't really want to get out, but it's Akaroa, I think they call it. Pretty little place.
And we take refuge from the rain in one of the several cafes where they did a really mean hot chocolate and cake. We managed to walk all the way to the wharf, passing the war memorial for the locals as well as this big whaling pot, as the port was linked to many whaling boats and activities in this area. This is Charles Merton, and in 1842 he sailed to New Zealand on a French naval ship that was sent to protect the French settlement in Akaroa, and he spent 4 years in the Pacific making sketches. This statue gives the impression, wrongly, that he was a painter, and in fact he was an etcher. Akaroa in Maori means Long Harbour, although it was also known as Port Louis Philippe by French settlers in the region. Hector's dolphins apparently can often be seen in the area, but unfortunately not for us today.
I've seen one of those for ages. A Rover V8. So the following morning, unfortunately, it's still absolutely pouring down with rain.
That's not what you said at the time.
Yes, it was persisting it down.
It was.
A bit, same as the previous day, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the site was really nice, though, wasn't it? It was fairly, the facilities are pretty basic with a shower and that.
Yeah. With the wet weather continuing, we first head through Christchurch and through the morning traffic, which is probably the most that we've ever seen on our trip so far.
So we're now tracking, we're sort of getting to the end of South Island, yeah. I guess, in a way. We're tracking north, aren't we?
Yeah, what have you thought of South Island so far?
To me, South Island's very dramatic, especially on the west coast. I think as you track down the west coast through Franz Josef, and down that side, I thought it was quite dramatic. And then you cut through the valleys, but obviously, Mount Cook a few days before, or the day before, was just a couple of days before was really beautiful and that. And I'll never forget that drive past Mount Cook. So for me,
4 little excited kids, weren't we?
Yeah, for me, I think South Island is really pretty, and unfortunately we did miss out Milford Sound, which is probably a place you would go to. That's where everybody go to, but it was just one of those things. So we're sort of now starting to think about the last stage, getting up to the top of South Island, catching the ferry back onto North Island. But we've got one more stop, so we're tracking on the east coast, which is sort of flat in many places, I'd say. Of course, the weather wasn't great. It's never great when the weather's not too good.
Following State Highway 1, it heads northwards, at times hugging the coast.
In fact, you go through some of the roads, they've had to, by the looks, it goes right next to the cliffs, go right up to the sea, and they've had to tunnels, and there's a couple of tunnels you go through. And there's some places where there's netting where you just hope there's no rocks coming down. We all look up as we go through and get through it as fast as possible. So we're sort of tracking our way up to Blenheim, where we're going to stop for a night, because we got a wine tasting event to go for that. So we're all looking forward to that. So we're really just track forward towards Blenheim and that.
And it's a good time to stop, so we head to the Beach House Cafe, where we demolish some stunning food, as you can see.
The aftermath.
And the artwork in the cafe was unusual, and many items for sale. And we continue to head for a target campsite at Blenheim, which we will show you in the next episode, along with a great fun day wine testing before heading off to Picton to catch the Inter-Islander ferry back to North Island.